Hi, I'm Alexyz Joy with Hollywood Unlocked. I'm so excited to be here, especially because of the importance of the episode. So, thank you all so much for this time.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Alexis. Yeah.
That one really important scene, well, I felt it was important, was the fact that when you all as a family were watching, the protests on the TV, and the question of can we change to something different? How have you all been able to kind of have those distractions to kind of get away from all of the pressure? Because it can be a lot, and filming, of course, can be triggering for some. So, how have you all been able to kind of apply distractions in your life while still focusing on the things that matter?
Sue?
I went and I had to do it through art. For me, you know what I'm saying? I went and found something that I felt, or I sought out something that I felt would speak to this and ended up producing and amongst others a project that speaks to it because for me it's like I don't know, I just couldn't really turn away from it, but I had to find a way to express something that I feel so strongly about. It's like this is that cause for me that makes every hair on my body stand up and makes everything in me churn and churn and churn until I do something, you know? So, but that being said, I do remember the day, and it was like, I don't know how many days, and I'm not a news person. So, the fact that I had on CNN for any amount of time in a row is like something major's going on. And I remember the day I said to some friends, you know what, I'm going to watch a comedy tonight. I'm going to turn this off and watch a comedy. And it felt revolutionary. It felt like, I was equal parts, how dare you? And equal parts like, oh, you have a choice in how you can, manage this right now. And how, you have a choice in how you are going to allow yourself to feel right now. And right now you need a break. So it was like those two things at once. It was like, there was all this like, oh, the responsibility of staying in it. And then all of this like, no, in order to serve others, I have to replenish myself. It's that thing
Mhm.
where when the mask drops down in the airplane, they say put it on before you can put it on somebody else, and you got to take care of yourself first.
Yeah.
You feel that, you know what I mean? You feel like I'll be of no use, if there's nothing to use, So
Yeah.
I felt the moments where I had to like fill my cup back up with
Mhm.
something joyful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was same boat. I mean, a little exercise, a little meditation goes a long way.
Mhm.
I personally I found I really enjoyed watching the NBA. And not only because it was a release and a magnification of what was happening in the world at the same time. I felt like the league did a really wonderful job in using their platform to say like,
Yeah.
this is our form of Black excellence, but we're not taking attention away from what's going on. We're here to make sure that everyone pays attention to it. So they
Mhm.
did my heart good to see what they did with their platform and then to just see them ball out. So that was a big one for me.
Thank you.
Um,
No, because you guys play such lovely married people and you happen to be lovely married people IRL.
Mhm.
So, I'm curious to know like when did marriage stop terrifying you? Like when did you when did you learn how to commit to the commit?
Well,
you want
I'm
to go
not
first?
married. I don't know if in real life, I'm not married.
Oh, you're
He's
not married IRL.
he's the marriage expert.
I don't know if I'm any kind of an expert. My wife and I are 14 years into the game, um, 15 years in March, and the time seems at different points like it flies by, and at other points we're like, man, this is gonna be forever because that's the way it goes. And she would say the exact same thing. But I do think you find somebody that you want to share your life with, that you want to build a family with, and you take those vows as seriously as you can, better for worse, sickness and health till death do you part. And I'm fortunate that I got a chance to hitch on to my best friend. Like we've known each other since freshman year of college. We lived in the same dorm. We both went to grad school together in New York. Um, she's a wonderful human being. She's a great mother, a great wife. I got lucky and blessed in that she said yes when I asked her. So it takes forgiveness. It takes communication. The times in which it's toughest are when you notice that you stop talking to each other for a minute and you're like, I don't feel like talking to her. And she's like, I can tell she don't feel like talking to me. That's when you really got to be like, hey, we haven't talked to each other for a minute. And you're like, I know. And then you can kind of hit that reset, because there's no cruise control to this game. It requires constant attention. And I'm thankful that we've both committed to that attention for 14 years, and may it be for another 14 and another 14 and another 14.
I was, I'm going to take that advice, SK, because that was some good stuff right there. No, for real. I was engaged. I'm no longer engaged, but I do know, I mean, there are things that you even learn from that, and like the value of what's relationships are about, you know, and I would just say the major things are, you know, what Sterling's talking about, that communication, and, you know, making like, always making an easy pathway for that. And always investing. That's, I think, part of what he's saying is like, you don't get to just put it on cruise. Like, there's a constant sort of checking in, and like, you know, that's why you kind of have to make sure you're in it with somebody who you know you can be in it with, you know, for the long haul. I believe that Beth and Randall are two such people, and I, you know, it just seems like they was blessed, honey, because not everybody got that, and I get it, you know, but I love seeing that they do have it. Isn't it nice just to see like people who kind of are getting, you know what I'm saying? It's nice. It's nice to play.
It's nice to see Beth handle Randall.
Does she handle him? I don't know. Maybe, you know what, in some ways though, I mean, she probably just knows him the best, right? They've, like, similar to Sterling and Ryan's story, they've known each other, you know, since college, and they just know each other the best. And so yeah, they probably, you know how to handle each other, and that's a good thing. You know, I feel like they have that shorthand with one another that makes it feel genuine and real. They have all that history, and it lives every time you kind of see them together on screen.
Amen.
I have a question. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, thank you so much. So I kind of just want to jump right on into this episode. I need you guys to understand I was texting crazy people throughout the entire evening, and especially.
Shauna, are you in New York? I just have to ask. Are you in New York?
Yes.
Okay, I could tell by the apartment. I'm in New York. I saw that window. I was like, oh, she in the brownstone. She right there.
This is the Bronx in the back over here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes. But, you know, and especially because and first off, let me real quick, Sterling, your wife is my soror, so you know I already got love for her. So thank you, Ryan.
Throw it up. I'm 40. I mean, it's like, come on. Yeah.
But yes, you know, one of the things that I loved so much about the episode, and I'm so comfortable being able to speak to this into a room of Black people, was, you know, one of the opening scenes was Kate texting, I was about to call you Sterling, Kate texting Randall, you know, saying, oh, you know, what organizations could I donate to, and blah, 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 blah. And then, you know, towards the end of the episode where he has that very real and almost very uncomfortable moment with her saying, you know, this isn't the first time that a Black person has been killed on camera. This isn't this is just the first time that we've spoken about it. And that line of, I'm exhausted. I think so many of us felt that in our spirit. And I guess my question to you would be, in real life, how have you guys been handling the exhaustion of that? Because, you know, a lot of us have very well-meaning white friends who sometimes miss that mark, you know, or they kind of put the burden back on us to have to educate them, to make them feel better. And it's so crazy. It's one of the things that I realized is something that's almost ingrained in us as Black people in this country like since we're children, is to always make white people very comfortable. So how have you guys been managing that in your real life, as well as, and I know I'm getting kind of deep here, in your real life, as well as, you know, you guys are on a cast of primarily white people. How have you guys been handling that with your fellow co-stars?
It's a good question.
After you, Sue. Yeah, please.
You said after me.
Yes.
No, I think there are very well-meaning folks. You know what I'm saying? And you have to acknowledge that there are people who genuinely, you know, feel a certain way about this. But I think, you know, at the end of the day, what Randall said in that scene was right. It's like, it's just not the time to be worried about you and all, and, you know, the tremendous amount of feelings that you're feeling in this moment. It's really, you know, it's more than that. I'm thankful that people are recognizing that, because I realize now, if you look historically, the only way for true change is when, at least in this country, is when, you know, that culture steps in, is when, you know, white folks, you know, start to get on, and we all start to work together towards something. Then you start to see shifts happening. So, you know, that needs to happen in some way. But in terms of, like, you know, trying to, I don't know, maybe walk on eggshells about it, it just, the severity of what is happening just doesn't call for that anymore. You know, it's just really time to, that we all are honest with one another, you know, and this doesn't mean, you know, completely, it means that we can no longer minimalize or diminish, you know, the amount of pain and the amount of struggle and discrimination that we, you know, consistently have to battle. I think it's time for everyone to be real about that, you know, and each one is entitled to their own feelings about it. But I think the best thing that sort of we could do for our own personal, you know, wellness is not to be as concerned with how, you know, people are grappling with it, but more with what progress are we making? What, you know, how can we keep this movement, you know, in forward motion and not take our foot off the gas? And I think that's the most important thing right now.
Yeah. That's really well said, sis.
I was finding it on the way.
I have inspiration. It came to you. Yes, Jesus. So like, it was past 6-7 months have been, you know, crazy. And I think also too, Shauna, like the position that I kind of find myself in after 14, 15 years of sort of just like showing up and saying your lines at work and then going home and then, you know, being cool, is like people want to hear what you have to say. And I'm like, think about Chappelle's like comedy bit when he talks about Ja Rule after 9/11. It's like, where is Ja?
Where's Ja?
I want to hear from Ja. And I'm like, am I Ja Rule up in this? So it's interesting. I make a couple of key distinctions. First of all, you know, intentions matter, and I try to see the good where people are coming from with what they want, right? Two, there's a difference between, if you need anything, I'm here, and like, tell me what I need to do in order to be of service. It's like, I'm trying to tell myself so much stuff that I'm reading up on and learning about, and make sure that I can actually say something intelligent to people. It's like, I kind of can't do that in this moment. I appreciate where you're coming from, whatever, you know. White folks told me white fragility is good, so check that out. Like, I mean, besides that, I just, so much. There was so much, and like our show touched on it, but like that break, it was like Ahmad and Brianna and then George, it was like bam, bam, bam. And you just felt like, aren't we supposed to press the pause button on this racism thing while like the world is trying to get healthy? Like, can we do it for just a second? And it's like, nah, bro, it don't work like that. It keeps going, you know what I'm saying? So I and our cast and crew are pretty good about not trying to inundate, but like I would get calls from lots of people. I had lots of messages, and at a certain point, I just stopped responding to messages, not because I didn't appreciate where they're coming from, because bro was tired. You know what I'm saying? And I'm homeschooling these little Negro children. I was like, like all of that stuff was happening at the same time. But I was really proud, like, of the script, and I'm glad we got a chance to talk into it. Like, it's got to be uncomfortable sometimes, and the conversations that we as Black and brown people have with our children regarding race and how to come home safe happen much earlier than they do in households that are white, right? Or that are like transracial adoptees. Like, it was probably just an uncomfortable thing for them to talk about with their children. So Randall had to deal with it on his own. So I answered that. Did I answer that question?
Yes, you did.
Yeah. And one of the things that I think we were so excited about and really appreciated is the way that the show handled it and wanted to handle it. You know what I mean? They really genuinely, this very topic, show both sides of this topic and the truth of that, from people who are very sincere in their intentions. You know what I'm saying? So it's not discrediting, aside. It's like, all right, we're going to put even the best intended people in this situation and have them work it out. And it's still this thing, right? It's still something that has to be grappled with. It's so deep. It's just a really, really deep issue.
I actually have a question that kind of piggybacks off of Shauna's. Both of your characters, Randall and Beth, have portrayed a strong Black man, a strong Black woman in different ways. And both of your characters cope very differently with pressure and trauma, but both of them cope. And so I kind of want to ask specifically about the industry this year, because I know a lot of public conversations have been had about diversity and inclusion, but I'm sure there have been private conversations as well. Do you feel a different responsibility, I guess, with this season launching, with how your characters represent Black America? Because Beth's final monologue in the episode was really like the hope that people were waiting for, where she was like, we fight on, we press on. And even with Randall's choice to leave his white therapist and look to find a Black therapist, do you feel a different, I don't even want to say pressure, but responsibility, I guess, to the Black viewers in this current climate that we're in?
I'll just say I think it would have been tone deaf for us to not address the climate, given the fact that you have these two characters that are front and center in the show. And so much of it, of the past 6-7 months, has to do with like Black folks finding themselves in the midst of feeling under siege on multiple fronts, right? Like the idea that you wouldn't talk about it just seems sort of unrealistic and not really doing the character service, right? So I think that I don't feel any more pressure, anything that I've had in seasons past, but the world and the perception of the world has been heightened in such a way that I think it was it's an opportunity for us to take advantage of. You know what I'm saying? Like it would have been irresponsible for Randall to just be like, it's my birthday. I'm so happy. You know what I'm saying? My birthday happened in April. I was like, this is a shitty birthday, man. Like this is not a great, you know what I'm saying? I was like, I don't feel so good right now. And so, yeah, like that's just, I think we just try to be a reflection of the world that we're living in right now. Mm-hmm. And that's the world we're living in. Yeah.
My question is regarding the scene with the family watching as well. But we see that the children are watching with their parents. And what do you think that scene says, particularly with how children have been seeing what's been going on? Like, how do you think children will be affected by what's happening? And how do you think it'll affect the children on the show going forward this season?
Well, I think it's really interesting because in my mind, it's also sort of a family doing something together versus a little boy in the past doing something by himself, right? And I have two little boys, and we will watch things together. And most things go over the 5-year-old's head, but the 9-year-old is like, yo, the 9-year-old, if he could vote right now, he's like, we need a change. Like, he is ready. He's like, it's like, it can't be November 3rd for this little homie, like, quick enough, right? And so it's really interesting to see how he processes the world. But what I love about it, whatever pain, whatever frustration, whatever confusion there is, there's room and space for conversation with his parents, right? And I think that that is a very healthy and necessary thing, because if you don't talk to them through it, they're going to figure out the world on their own through their own devices, whether it be peer groups or YouTubers and all this other stuff. So I'm happy that we have a space where, reflected on the show as well, like if they have questions, concerns, thoughts, like we can get through this as a family.
And I also think it was reflected a bit in the scene with Malik after, I can't remember if it was before or after, it was after,
Yeah.
that, you know, Malik talks about, you know, he's seen all of this and what has happened since Trayvon, as he's going on these walks with his dad. Like they've developed a way to like get through this together, and this other type of bonding has happened between them because of it. And in the Pearson household, in our household, it's more like you see Tessa's, you know, like, can we please, this has been so much. And you sort of see, you know, somebody who's like Deja in the beginning with the pandemic, who's like, look, people need to wake up and see what's going on. So, you know, you also have to know your child and which child you're dealing with, and, you know, sort of how they, you know, are taking it in and what they need. And it you know, probably gets more complex when you have like, you know, 1, 2, 3 children, and, you know, different ways of taking it all in. But one thing that I did like is that it was one TV and they were watching it together. And that when the child was like, I can't anymore, they heard that, you know, and was like, okay, you know, let's change the channel and give ourselves a break.
Yeah.
I'm curious with this being 5. Is Susan, you froze?
She got no freeze. You can still hear. There it is.
Yeah, did I unfreeze? Because
The
you guys
dramatic pregnant pause.
Was that what I looked like? Because now you're frozen.
I'm not.
Me?
I'm not. That was just acting.
No, you're still frozen.
Am I?
Yeah, I'm telling you,
unfroze now.
you would think I ain't got no job. The way my internet work.
Blurry over there, sis.
They got 3 minutes. Let them ask the last question. They coming up. We coming up.
So I was curious. We're in the 5th season of the show. I want to know, because it's so intricately done and beautifully done, what have you learned about yourselves as people through this time? And then, do you watch the show like we watch it? Do you get to cry about everything?
I do. Like, I watch it like a fan. Like, I kind of forget that I shot it, and I am genuinely moved by it when I check it out. And then even sometimes this sounds gonna sound weird, I'm kind of moved by myself. I'm like, Brown, are you being a little vain? And then I'm like, no, like I feel Randall like everybody else does. You know what I'm saying? I feel the joy of seeing Black love on screen, like the way that everybody else does. I feel like I want these brothers to work this ish out, like hopefully the way that everybody else does. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I genuinely love the show. If I wasn't a part of the show and I got a chance to watch the show, I would love the show. So that's that. I'll let Sue answer that question. I'll think about how it's changed me.
Am I still frozen?
You're not frozen.
Okay. You know, I'm like, I always have to get like one out first. Like I have to watch once. I got to do one for nothing. Like, you know, because it's my actor head is on, you know what I mean? And that's what it is. And that's probably what it's going to be. And then usually on the second time around, except for scenes that like aren't mine, I can be in those. But usually on the second time around, I can see it in its totality. But a lot of times I get it from reading it first too. Like that's the first wave. And then the second wave is when I see it and how people embody it. And then I absolutely do watch it with everybody else and like a fan like everybody else. Um, and it's exciting, you know, it's exciting. Like sometimes Sterling makes fun of me sometimes, but you know, episodes that I'm not in, sometimes I won't read them because I want to watch it like a fan. You know what I mean? I want to know, like, I don't want to know, you know, until I watch it. And that's me. And it's, you know, it's not a lazy actor thing. I want some element of surprise. I want like to kind of just experience it in this fullness like that. If I'm not in it, and sometimes, not all the time. Underline those things in the article so people don't think.
I'll answer the last part of your question because I know we got to go. But like, I think that my level of empathy and compassion for people who live with anxiety has gone up, has increased. Like I'm a fairly even keel person, but like inhabiting Randall and sort of experiencing what life is like through his eyes, who feels constantly responsible and always on the brink of letting someone down or feeling like he's dropped the ball, has sort of increased my own level of like, oh man, that person is living with a different thing than you are. And then also the past 6 or 7 months and sort of the anxiety of the world has just lifted up. You know what I'm saying? It's like we all need the space to respond in a way that is authentic to us and know that we're still going to be safe. So that's probably like one of the biggest takeaways that I've had from the show.
Awesome. Did you want to share yours, Susan, over the last 5?
I didn't. Can you please ask the question again? Because I didn't hear my thing from.
No worries. Over the last 5 seasons, what you feel like you've learned about yourself through the show?
Through the show. You know what? Open-mindedness is so important, you know, because this show, if nothing else, shows us what it is to walk in somebody else's shoes. Because you don't just meet somebody in one portion of their life, you see them in that portion of their life, and then it takes you back to other spaces in their life where you actually see how they came to where they are now. And it's such an excellent example of demonstrating what it's like to not judge a book by its cover, to like, you know, if you went a little bit deeper, you might understand where that person was coming from or why. You know, I think about when people first saw, you know, Rebecca and Miguel together, and it was like, oh no, see, we're not doing this. That's not my love. You know what I'm saying? And it was like, and then they took you back, like, you know, what happened? And then you're like, oh, okay, yeah, oh, they found each other. They needed that company, you know, and it wasn't something that just happened right after that. And there's more perspective to it, you know? And so not to be as closed-minded about things or judge people, and to understand, to have some kind of compassion for people's journeys, you know.
Yeah, amazing. They're wrapping us. Y'all are fantastic.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much.
Real. Y'all got to give a shout out or give whoever some flowers, whoever wrote that Hank's got the Rona line. Listen, I said, see, that's a Black household. That's a Black household.
We just live. And the way you let them in the don't you pass that threshold.
They let us say that one however it came out.
Yeah.
Corona is so us.
Yeah.
Well, this is
Thank you all.
Hilarious.